I know several families that have lost their kids to, fentanyl with xylazine in it. But now to see the carfentanil and some of the more dangerous substances, it's all part of this chemical weapon attack, which we've been saying for years. You can call it whatever you want. I know a lot of people get a little bit uptight about that. It's a little drastic. No, it's not. They're killing more Americans than any terrorist organization has ever killed. And they're using chemicals made in labs like Wuhan labs. Sound familiar? And they're killing our kids and killing our communities. So, yeah, it's a chemical attack. And they're getting the upper hand because we're watching it happen.
What does the city of Chicago have to do with our open southern border? A lot more than you may think. All across our country, in urban cities like Chicago, in rural communities like Dayton, Ohio, or in small towns in California or Arizona or New Mexico, it has so much to do with our border. We're losing our children. We are being infiltrated by an army of chemicals and narcotics that are being made readily available by President Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party at the expense of the American people. And we're like blind sheep being led to the slaughter because our government isn't doing what it needs to do to protect us or to advise us or to tell us. They cover it up and they throw it under a rug and they try to bury it somewhere far away until it shows up in your house and you don't know what to do. So many parents that I've spoken with have lost their children to fentanyl, to carfentanil, to all these other fentanyls and these chemicals that accelerate the fentanyl experience to the point where they're so desperate to inject these drugs into their bodies, children, Americans, young and old, and by the way, rich and poor. It's not just about street people anymore. If you have that in your head, you are setting yourself up for a very big surprise. But our children and our people are turning into zombies. And they're willing to do that even while their flesh rots on them while they are alive, to the point where you could literally see the muscles inside their thighs or see their feet falling off, the skin and the meat. I'm sorry. That's what we're seeing. Border 911, our foundation, Jason Jones is in Philadelphia right now. I'd been there before as well in the Kensington area. The video footage that I saw from him, as well as what I've shot there, as well as what Derek Maltz, who's a part of our team, has shot there, is chilling. It's like watching a horror film. It's really like, I don't even need to watch a zombie movie. All I need to do is go to Kensington and see what's happened there. And it's horrifying. Chicago, the city streets are filled with young, wonderful, beautiful Americans that have lost their way, that are overtaken by the drug world and gangs, killing each other on the streets with no direction and no one to give them hope. And I'm not talking about handouts, folks. I'm talking about a belief in oneself that you could do anything you want if you work hard enough for it. Instead, we are slowly killing ourselves. Why? Why are we allowing this to happen? Why are we so willing to give up this amazing nation, this amazing country, our amazing, beautiful families, our freedom, our liberty, our safety, our health, to our adversaries? Why? Why are you allowing that to happen? Why have we become complacent? I want to read you something. It's stunning. This is just this weekend, Chicago, right? At least 44 people were shot, 8 fatally in gun violence across Chicago so far this weekend. These are stories coming out of Chicago every single weekend. On Friday night, 2 teens and a 12-year-old boy were wounded in a pair of shootings in Douglas. The first shooting happened at 9:20. I can go on and on and on. The second was someone with a silver sedan opened fire, striking a 12-year-old walking with a group of people and a 15-year-old girl sitting in the car, Chicago police said. We're going to be in Chicago this week. I plan on going with Border 911. Our group is there. This is the first of many events that we plan on kicking off. We're going to be in Marionette Park. We're going to be there to talk to residents, grassroots meeting, law enforcement and residents. What can we teach? What can we learn from each other? How can we fix this crisis together? Because we're not going to be able to solve it by putting our heads in the sand. We're not going to be able to solve it. And if you think, oh, well, this has nothing to do with me. I'm not a drug addict. Drugs will never affect me. They will never be a part of my life. I don't live in that poor neighborhood. Think again. In Chicago, a couple was brutally assaulted by teens while they were on a date. Teenagers, brutally assaulting this couple, and the wife was pregnant. And they beat her so bad, they blood coming out of her nose, they ripped her hair out of her head, and they killed her beautiful little unborn baby. That is what they did. These children became monsters. These children did the most horrific act imaginable. And those teenage children should be punished for the rest of their lives for doing that. But what led us to this point? I didn't see that when I was overseas in some places that had problems. I didn't witness this. I didn't see it in their newspapers. I didn't see flesh falling off of people's legs like I've seen even in San Antonio. And I've seen the same zombie drug here in Texas, in Houston, in San Antonio, in Dallas, especially in Houston. Saw it outside the San Antonio airport one day. That border, that wide open border, has everything to do with Chicago. That wide open border has everything to do with adversaries like China and others pushing chemicals that are beyond your imagination into the narcotics that are coming across that border, being sold in our country and being delivered to the veins of our children and our people. To the point where, as I said, we are losing our empire, our nation, our liberty, our freedom. Freedom isn't just being held hostage by a tyrant, right? Losing freedom isn't just being held hostage by a tyrant, but it's actually losing yourself, losing your community, losing your loved ones, losing your ability and reason to live. And that's what's happening. I have Derek Maltz on the show today. He is incredible. He has been fighting the fight with Lost Voices of Fentanyl, with Border 911 as a team member, Tom Homan with former head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We got Rodney Scott, former head of CBP, Customs and Border Protection, Victor Avila. All of us will be there. Jason Jones in Chicago this week. We want you to join us. And I have Derek Maltz on the show previewing some of what he will be talking about. But first, are you concerned about the endless flood of illegal immigration at the southern border? How about the $1 trillion being added to the national debt every 100 days? It's no wonder thousands of hardworking, patriotic Americans, including myself, are learning how to protect and diversify their retirement savings with precious metals. That's why I've partnered with the top-rated company, Goldco. I want you to take a listen to their current offer. You will get a free 2024 wealth protection kit and learn how to possibly get $10,000 in bonus silver as a listener of this show while supplies last. Folks, you can't beat that. And guess what? That's the reason why we're doing this show every day. We're warning you about the border. We're warning you about what is going on and how you can protect your family. Well, you can't protect your family unless you protect your family's financial future as well, right? And you got to do that by diversifying. If you don't trust me, go check it out online. Protect your family's financial future and freedom. Get started today at Sara, S-A-R-A, likesgold.com or call 855-823-GOLD. Get your free gold kit from Goldco and learn how to get $10,000 in bonus silver at Sara, S-A-R-A, likesgold.com, 855-823-4653. That's Sara, S-A-R-A, likesgold.com or call 855-823-GOLD. I'm so grateful to have Derek Maltz on the Sarah Carter Show. As you all know, he's not only a great friend of mine, he's a true patriot. And he was a former special agent in charge of the United States Department of Justice, a special operations division for almost 10 years. And he previously, you held that position as the chief of New York Drug Task Force, right? You were part of the New York Drug Enforcement Task Force.
Yes, as well. The chief
yeah, that's incredible. You just had such a wide range of knowledge and work in law enforcement. So you really know from the ground up.
Well, my father was the chief there 11 years, Sarah. So that NYPD, State Police, DEA task force is the oldest and largest task force. So I learned a lot from the men and women on the front lines in New York City. It was great.
You know, I always think about that. It's like your entire life, especially when you come from a family of law enforcement, just like people who come from military families, your whole life has been about, putting others before yourself. I mean, you saw your dad do that. You do that. Your mom did that, I'm sure, having, a husband who was working in law enforcement. And, right now in the United States, it's been just such a bizarre backlash in some ways towards law enforcement because of these incredible, DAs, these district attorneys that have been put in place that have put the victims last and put the criminals first. Is it really that stunning a difference to you? Or do you think we're just going through some kind of weird pendulum shift here?
No, it's absolutely incredible. And let me just go back because I want to let you know this because I think you know it. But one of the reasons I'm so passionate is that's my brother. He was the cover boy for U.S. Air Force Pararescue. He died in Afghanistan over 20 years ago. So the passion comes from what would Mike want me to do? Sit back and just accept like the way the country's going or try to help in some meaningful way. And that's part of the reason why I help the families around the country as best I can to support them. But in regard to your question, it's inconceivable in my mind as a dedicated professional law enforcement guy that we would be in this condition right now. You got to remember, Sarah, the complexity of the threats are going through the roof. The ability to deal with it is going down. So the gap between good and evil keeps growing. That puts everybody at risk. It's not just a Democratic or Republican issue. It's the entire country. So, yeah, it really is upsetting. And I cannot believe this defund the police movement, the lack of support to law enforcement. And that's the other problem. At the same time, the bad guys are getting more sophisticated. Right. There's many good guys that are retiring now because the morale is so bad. So we're getting hurt, so we need to keep fighting because it's the country's future.
Right. I agree. And I feel that same kind of passion. I know your brother and others like him, they're heroes to me. They've given everything. They gave everything. They gave their life to ensure our nation's freedom and to help others. And that's why I say it's a selfless and job where you give so much. And it's stunning to me to see the direction our country is going in. And I think a lot of Americans are waking up. That's part of the reason why we're all part of this phenomenal team that Tom Homan started with Jason Jones and Victor Avila and Rodney Scott, former head of the Border Patrol. But we're a part of Border 911, and we want to educate Americans on what is really happening to our nation and the threat that we're facing. And you and I talk about this all the time, but we have a huge event planned in Chicago. It's the first of many. And we're looking at educating people. We're not just going to Republican strongholds. We're obviously going to Chicago, where we've seen a significant rise in crime on the South Side, narcotics, fentanyl, which is what you've been very focused on with, all the children and people in our country that we've lost to this scourge of fentanyl and carfentanil and all these different chemicals that have come on our streets. But let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to be in Marionette Park in Illinois on the 12th, on June 12th. Tell me a little bit about what you're planning on talking about and what the focus will be for you in Chicago.
So for one, like we have to talk about this historic fentanyl crisis, obviously. So I'll be focusing on that. But where I'm going to get into a little bit more, because Americans need to connect the dots, and that is this ongoing synthetic drug attack by the Chinese nationals, supported fully by the CCP. I mean, I followed this from 2009, 2008, whenever it was, watching the K2 and the spice and the bath salts, and then the fentanyl, and then, of course, the precursor chemicals to make fentanyl, and also like the methamphetamine chemicals that have been provided by the Chinese forever now, over 30 years. But now we're in a more dangerous phase. Now we have these other very powerful synthetic opioids like nitazene, isonitazene, metonitazene. And now we have medetomidine, which is another zombie drug. So we had the xylazine, which DEA cited was found in every state in America. 30% of the fentanyl samples, the powder samples, contained xylazine, which is a horse tranquilizer, causing necrosis and the rotting of human tissue. But now we have medetomidine, which is another version of this zombie drug, they call it. It gives a more intense high, a longer high, allegedly. But really what it is poison coming out of these labs in China. We have no idea what we're getting. And then it brings me to my other topic that I've been talking about for a while, is all these marijuana grow operations where we're seeing very high THC marijuana, 30% or more. And we see a lot of mental illness, depression, anxiety, all these increased health studies that are out there. And by the way, Sara, I just found out from the DEA that the Chinese are importing Chinese pesticides for these materials that they're growing. So think about it. We know pesticides can cause cancer in America when they're made in America. Can you imagine what pesticides from China could do?
You've been warning people about this since 2009. I mean, this is nothing new, just like you said, and it's been allowed to grow and fester to the point where we just saw some videos that Jason Jones shot in Kensington. It was bad enough when I went to Kensington in Philadelphia and I saw the atrocity of what the Chinese proxy war on the United States was. When I saw those videos and I saw that woman sitting there with half of her upper thigh missing because it had been eaten away and she was still injecting herself. What's happening here? Talk about that proxy war on us and what we need to do as Americans, as parents, to protect our children and fight back.
So, Sara, I'm not an expert on the CCP or China, but I did help out and participate with the House China Select Committee. I saw the website where they were showing how the Chinese are incentivizing, providing tax rebates for anybody that's exporting fentanyl analogs or precursor chemicals out of China. They're not prosecuting people when they send stuff out of the country. They also control all the internet providers, and they have total control of the financial industry in China, but they're allowing the Chinese now to do record level money laundering with the cartels. But the point is that, I always give credit to Mike McCall. I was at an event with him, and he said, as the former Homeland Security Committee chairman, he said, the greatest foreign policy for China is to sell fentanyl to America. Well, they've taken it a new level now. They've been doing the synthetic cannabinoids, the cathinones, the fentanyl.
Right.
Now they're doing the xylazines and the medetomidines, which are more, deadly in many ways because you can't even save somebody with Narcan. When you put this stuff in fentanyl, it's causing them to rot, as you saw in Kensington. I was up in Kensington. Jason's been up in Kensington filming. And until you see that stuff firsthand, you can't believe it's America. Because these poor people are rotting to death on the streets, but we are not saving them. The mayor in Philadelphia is not talking about this. The police are not really taking action because they're not supported. And yet we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine and these other countries, but we're not even helping our homeless veterans and the people that are losing their souls on the streets of America. To me, I have a major problem with that. My heart goes out for these families. I know several families that have lost their kids to, fentanyl with xylazine in it. But now to see the carfentanil and some of the more dangerous substances, it's all part of this chemical weapon attack which we've been saying for years. You can call it whatever you want. I know a lot of people get a little bit uptight about that. It's a little drastic. No, it's not. They're killing more Americans than any terrorist organization has ever killed. And they're using chemicals made in labs like Wuhan labs. Sound familiar? And they're killing our kids and killing our communities. So, yeah, it's a chemical attack. And they're getting the upper hand because we're watching it happen.
What do I say about Mike Lindell all the time? What an awesome guy he is, and how he has this great company that focuses on American products and American workers. That's why I love Mike Lindell. I love the fact that he is a sponsor of the Sara Carter Show, and he has such incredible products that I have all over my house. But with the dedication of his team, they've expanded their offerings to include hundreds of products now. And to spread the word that they will not be part of cancel culture, they are hosting, listen to this, a $25 extravaganza going on now. Here's the current offer. Use promo code Carter, CARTER, at mypillow.com to get the sale price and free shipping on your order over $75. Go to mypillow.com or call 800-685-7221 today to get in on the $25 extravaganza today. Be sure to use code Carter to get the sale price and free shipping on your order over $75. Call 800-685-7221 or go to mypillow.com, promo code Carter. Again, mypillow.com, promo code Carter. Let me tell you this, a good friend of mine, Bill Gertz, sent me his story this morning, and it was with regard to Xi Jinping. They did the Congressional Research Office did a major study on Xi Jinping's financial assets. And right now it's looking like he has in his own personal assets and accounts over $700 million, over $700 million. And they think that's on the low side of what they've been able to estimate. Here's a world leader that is not only that is doing everything he can to target the United States with this proxy war, and he's lining his pockets, and we're allowing him to do that. But it's not just the people that we're physically seeing on the streets. What about all the mentally ill that have been affected? Do we even have any stats on that, Derek? Not just the deaths, but all the people that we have to put in mental institutions or need full lifetime medical care because they have allowed the drugs to affect them to the point of no return.
Right.
Do we have any idea?
Great question, but unfortunately, the current CDC doesn't even produce accurate and timely stats on fentanyl deaths. What I called out recently, and I'm going to help, and maybe you can help here, trying to get Congress or trying to get state legislators to actually understand we need an accounting of how many people are being saved from Narcan, right? So we know we can't get it perfect because we're giving out free Narcan, teachers, parents. We're not going to ever get those stats. But if we have EMS and police and hospital workers, they keep logs for everything. We don't want to violate HIPAA. We don't need names. We don't even need ages. We need to know how many people in America have been saved from Narcan by every county in America, because once we have that, we can better address the actual magnitude of this problem. Then, to take your idea, try to get some of these mental health statistics, that even puts it on even a greater magnitude of a problem. Like, I talked to emergency room doctors, like one in San Diego, for example. She was telling me that they're seeing more and more young kids with this marijuana psychosis, they're calling it, right? And again, I'm not a doctor, right? But I'm going by what I was told by professionals. And this is my concern. This is all part of China's taking advantage of the weakness on marijuana. Let's put out some marijuana with Chinese pesticides on it. Let's put out very high THC. Let the young Americans smoke it because the government's telling everyone it's safe. Like the recent debacle. Sarah, I don't know if you're up on top of this one, but so the current Attorney General hijacked the entire marijuana rescheduling. Ann Milgram, the administrator of DEA, she's not supporting just reschedule marijuana from class 1 to class 3. The scientists haven't even done their job yet. But the Attorney General's taking direction from the White House all to get the votes in November. Well, guess what? Now we're telling the kids, it's okay, marijuana is not that bad. At the same time, China's making mass amounts of this. We have over 1,000 grow operations, 270 in the state of Maine alone. Oklahoma's ground zero, but this is all strategic, and we're sleeping at the switch.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. That's why we're going to be in Illinois. That's why you're out there speaking and warning parents. Derek, I know you've got to run. I know you have a real important meeting to get to. I thank you for being on the show today. It's short but sweet, folks, because what we're warning you about could save the life of somebody that you love. Please be aware of what is happening. We are at war. Derek is right. We are at war, whether our government admits it or not. Our children are dying. Our people are dying. And join us in Marionette. If you are in Illinois, in Chicago, Illinois, you want to learn more about what's going on, come to the Border 911 Town Hall. We will all be there. We will answer all of your questions as best we can because we're on your side. We are you. We're Americans. We want to fix this problem, but we can't do it without you. Thank you so much, Derek. I want to go back really quick to, before we wrap up this show, to the story about the couple that was brutally beaten in Chicago. One of the teenagers there, one of those teen suspects had said, "We own the street," as they mercilessly beat this couple and almost killed them and killed their unborn child in the Chicago neighborhood. We are losing our cities. We are losing our children. We are failing to protect them. We're failing to protect them and ourselves, both physically as well as mentally. We need to wake up. We need to see what's really happening in our communities. And folks, you and I together cannot be afraid to stand up to this extremism. We are allowing the enemy to take away our most precious treasure, our children, and then our nation and our communities. We're allowing them to do this. We don't need to allow them to do this. We don't need to give them any more power. Do not give up your power. Please do not give up your power. You have it within you. You are stronger and better and wiser than you think. You can do this. And there are more of us than there are of them. I say that over and over again. I want you to believe it. I am with you on this. I want to fight for our children. I hope to see you in Marionette, Illinois, Marionette Park in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois. Please come and join us. We are going to take back our streets. They do not own the streets. We, the community, our families, our loved ones, those streets need to be safe for us and for our children, and they will be as long as we are willing to fight for them. If you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, give us a like and a follow and send us to a friend if you like the show. Go ahead and do that. Remember to download the show. It makes a real big difference in our algorithms, and it helps me to do my job and keep bringing on all of these phenomenal guests and travel to places all over the world like El Salvador and bring you firsthand reports from wherever I'm going. Please make sure you are subscribed to The Sara Carter Show on your favorite podcast app. Download it, like I said. We really appreciate it. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on X at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. And also, if you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, give us a like and a follow. God bless you. God bless our nation. And God bless the great state of Texas.